explained to the students.
So what would you have done? What would you have done differently?
I would have created it myself and had more authentic material, more interaction. I would have done a lot different.
More interaction, meaning?
I would have had examples where, you know, you draw out where they have been and where you've been, and authentic examples rather than made up and
Okay,
pretend.
good, good. That's very good. I'd like to get another example, and then I'm going to pull them together.
I've had in French. I've had student presentations.
French.
Yeah.
By the way, that's a different. Do you do online French?
Yeah.
Okay, so foreign languages, and speech and science labs are great online, but a lot of people think that they're the hard ones. But they can be done, right?
They can be done.
Okay, so I'm sorry.
We use a lot of material from UT Austin. They have just
they're wonderful,
unbelievable
terrific
online videos and all kinds of things.
Yeah, and UT Austin has good materials in business, by the way, also for online. By the way, for you people in business.
But on-campus thing where I've had students do presentations for the class, and the rest of the class just tunes them out.
Yep.
Absolutely tunes them out. They can't understand what they're talking
Absolutely.
about, and the kids having eye contact.
Right.
That can be,
Horrible.
that can be disastrous.
Deadly. Okay, so keep those two examples in mind, and then we had one over here, right?
Well,
This is Karen from, another business person.
Marketing
Yep,
advertising.
right.
This was an experience I had when I was a PhD student. I was also teaching a class that it was championed by a full-time faculty member, and we were told what we were supposed to do. But the students were unhappy with an assignment that they had done, and we also followed a rubric. We followed a rubric. We were following it to the letter, but the students were not happy about how that had gone. And so they were pretty much checking out. We lost their trust in the meantime, and the rest of it was, and that happened about mid-semester, and it was really hard to get that across them. And being in the classroom, because it wasn't something I could fix, but it was just really hard being in between and trying to let them, trying to get that back.
Yes.
Even to have a productive discussion in the classrooms.
Yes.
And I would imagine had it been online, it would have been even more difficult.
Okay, so here's what. So you've heard these examples, and we could go through this, and we hear more of them. But here's what jumps out immediately, and I've never done this when this doesn't jump out. It would be worse in all these cases if they were online. That's the first thing. Much more difficult to recover, although in this case, you really couldn't recover it very easily anyway. And at the same time, they're more obvious when they're online. That is, you probably would spot it even more quickly because that kind of asynchronous feedback that you get when you're teaching online, rather than the aha happening because you're up there teaching the delta epsilon process, you're seeing it more as it scrolls through what student feedback is like. You would see it. You'd see it missing right away. And you'd see it even probably earlier than you were spotting it in person. But the bottom line is that these examples of unsuccessful classroom, real classroom, as opposed to virtual pedagogy, these examples are only exacerbated if they're in an online environment. The result really being, the moral of the story is, as bad as classroom teaching can be, online instruction can be worse. It's an odd thing for someone like me to tell you, but I feel like I have to be honest about it. I don't want to end by saying, and so just go buy a camera, do a webinar, and boy, you are just golden. It's not that at all. It's a purposeful kind of experience that you have to think through continuously. And always be looking at what you did in the classroom and asking yourself how you can avoid the kinds of errors you've made and how you can exaggerate the successes. The more you can do asynchronously, the better. A lot of times people say, I get a headache when I think about all this, because I used to math teachers are the worst about this. I hate to say it's my own kind, but I love a blackboard. I love chalk. I love an eraser. They don't even like whiteboards. I can't stand the smell. I loved it. I loved it. And I want to go back to the days when I just went up there and I just taught math at the blackboard eraser. Well, I have bad news for you. Those days are gone. They really are. I mean, whether you like WGU or whatever you like, I can assure you of the fact. All you need to do is walk down the street where students are walking, and you can see what the culture is like. The culture has changed. So we have to change with it. And the old story of, I just go up there and I teach the math, and they don't want to learn it, they don't have to learn it. We just don't have the luxury of behaving that way any longer. And students arrive for post-secondary education with a whole different set of experiences that we have to be able to take advantage of. You may find it difficult to hold a webinar, but they won't have trouble figuring out how to get into it. You may have trouble figuring out how to use the camera. They can do it. They can just, it's like osmosis. They just know how to do it. You may have trouble figuring out how to get ebook packages and figure out how to download from Google Docs to your iPad. They can figure it out just because their friend said, do you have a good reader? And they said no, and then for $5 they download the app, and next thing you know they're editing on their iPad and uploading it to Google Docs, and you're still back in your office trying to figure out how to turn on the iPad. Well, I'm, as is always the case with 1 hour, I'm running out of time. But something I want to make sure I hit on before I stop, and that is, one of the criticisms of WGU as a competency-based institution and of all online instruction is that people worry that the kind of collaboration that one sees in a classroom environment isn't easily evidenced in online pedagogy. And the fact is that the very mechanisms you use in a regular classroom can be mimicked online, every one of them. All you have to do is find the proper technology to do them. So never worry that the isolation you might feel is felt by your students. If they feel that isolation, it's because you haven't built the collaboration in. So that's just a very important side note. You can easily build it in by having the proper technology. If you don't use Google Docs, use something else. Get students used to the notion of working together on some project. People complain all the time about, students complain all the time about how are they going to get graded if they're all working on a project together, and they're in a group and so is slow and so is fast, and I don't like to get graded that way. But you need to build a sense of the importance of group work, especially in fields like business and IT, and in certain areas of liberal arts and sciences, and in nursing, health professions. Because one of the complaints of employers, you hear this, is that they hire these college graduates and they're not worth a dime. They want to go off into some cubicle and be an executive. They want to delegate things to other people. And they have not a clue as to how to work with a group of people to solve a difficult problem. And that's all people do in the real world. No one goes off and works on a problem on their own. If you don't figure out a way to do this in an online classroom venue, you are missing the boat, both in terms of what this generation is like and in terms of what the demands of the workforce are. And you will fail as a post-secondary instructor. I don't care how exciting you think you are, it'll be a disaster. What does that mean?
You're at the end of your...
Oh, I thought I had a nice slide that said the end. Well, I can go on and on about this, and if it was a 2-hour workshop, I'd have another series of questions to close. But I hope this gives you just some sense of ways to think about what you're doing, and if you're not doing it, to start thinking about it. If you have the time, I hope you come to the keynote, where I'm going to go into some more detail about WGU, and I think you'll find it very interesting. And then there's an afternoon workshop, which will be a repeat of the same series of questions. Yes, sir?
So we've talked a little bit today about what does and does not translate well in online in-class settings to
Yes.
online settings. Would you respond to this? It seems to me that if you're doing online, well, that you can transfer pretty much everything to an in-class setting.
Mhm. I think that if you, the converse doesn't work, but if you create a really superior, exemplary online experience, you can translate it to a classroom experience. That's absolutely correct. In fact, some would say that's the proof